All right, today we are uncorking the science behind what makes a truly great wine. And it turns out one of the biggest secrets isn't the grape or a fancy barrel. It's the fuel that powers the whole fermentation.
So, have you ever wondered what makes one wine burst with beautiful fruit aromas while another one just smells funky? Maybe like rotten eggs? Well, the answer lies in how we feed the tiny little workers that turn juice into wine. It all comes down to their diet.
Okay, so let's dive into this. To really get winemaking, you have to understand who's doing all the heavy lifting, the yeast. And just like any of us, yeast needs the right kind of food to do its job well. And that essential food is called yeast assimilable nitrogen, or what everyone in the biz calls it, YAN. Just think of YAN as the perfect protein shake for yeast. It's a mix of inorganic stuff like ammonia and organic stuff like amino acids. This is the fuel they burn to convert all that sugar into alcohol, all while staying happy and healthy.
Now, what's really interesting is that not all wines have the same appetite. Take a look here. A light, crisp white wine, it needs about 150 to 250 milligrams per liter. A bolder red needs a little more. But a really sweet wine like a dessert wine, that needs the most of all. It makes sense, right? The more sugar there is, the tougher the environment, and the more fuel the yeast needs to get the job done.
So we know yeast needs YAN, but just like our own diets, there's a big difference between a quick snack and a full nutritious meal. Let's break down the two main food groups in the yeast's pantry.
First up, you've got inorganic nitrogen. Winemakers usually add this in the form of something called diammonium phosphate, or DAP. Honestly, this is like a shot of espresso for the yeast. It's super easy for them to grab, it gets absorbed almost instantly, and it gives them a huge jolt of energy to start multiplying right at the beginning.
And then on the other hand, you have organic nitrogen. This comes from the amino acids that are already in the grapes. This isn't a quick fix. This is the gourmet, slow-release meal. The yeast takes this up much more gradually, which gives them a nice, steady stream of energy. And that is what really builds the foundation for complex, amazing aromas.
So, this brings us to the big showdown, organic versus inorganic. But it's not really about one being good and the other bad. It's all about the winemaker picking the right tool for the right job at exactly the right time. Let's just look at this side by side. Organic nitrogen, the amino acids, is slow and steady. This is what helps create those beautiful, delicate, fruity and floral notes, perfect for high-end whites and reds. DAP, the inorganic stuff, is fast and immediate. It's the emergency button you press to save a fermentation that's starting to slow down. But there's a catch. Use too much of it, and you risk creating these harsh, solvent-like smells. Oh, and yeah, the good stuff, the organic nitrogen, it costs more. Go figure.
So if you're a winemaker and you have these two very different tools, how do you decide what to do? Well, there's a whole strategic playbook for managing nitrogen. Let's take a look.
And in this playbook, timing is everything. It starts before a single bubble appears. You measure the YAN levels in the juice. If it's low, you add some nutrients. Early on, you might add that slow and steady organic nitrogen for healthy growth. Halfway through, when the yeast is really working hard, you might give it another little boost. But, and this is crucial, you never add nitrogen late in the process. That's when things can go really wrong and create those off flavors. And believe me, this is not a one-size-fits-all recipe. A winemaker is juggling so many factors. You have to think about the grape. Chardonnay, for example, is usually pretty low in nitrogen. You have to know your yeast strain. Some are just needier than others. Even the temperature matters. It's this incredibly complex equation they have to solve for every single batch. Getting that equation right is absolutely critical. The stakes are incredibly high, because when that nitrogen balance is off, it can completely ruin a wine. This slide really shows you the tightrope they have to walk. On one side, if there's too little nitrogen, the yeast starves. The fermentation can just stop completely, and the stressed out yeast starts producing those nasty sulfur compounds. That's your rotten egg smell. But on the other side, too much nitrogen is just as bad. You get those harsh alcoholic smells, and even worse, you risk creating a compound called ethyl carbamate, which is a potential health concern. So what this all comes down to is that managing how you feed your yeast isn't just some minor detail, it is an absolute cornerstone of crafting exceptional wine. It's this hidden conversation happening between the winemaker and the yeast that really shapes the final character of what ends up in your glass. Which leaves us with one final thought.
When you think about all the precise measurements, the deep biological understanding, and the strategic timing that goes into managing something like yan, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where does the science end? And where does the art truly begin?